Hi there guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. Today's episode, going to be previewing one of Week 2's best matchups as the Vikings head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. Vikings with a very impressive Week 1 victory over the Saints. The Steelers, a victory, but a much more concerning air about it as they just about eked out the Cleveland Browns. Really looking forward to this one. As I say, Vikes, very impressive. I thought they had one of the best performances overall. And going to break down what I think are some of the key matchups in this game, how I expect both teams to approach it. And then my final thoughts before declaring who I think is going to win this one. So we'll start with the better of the matchups. The Vikings defense, one of the better units in the league, going up against Steelers offense, which before last week you'd have said, in theory, and even now, I'm not going to overreact too much, should be one of the best units in football. So it's a real strength against strength matchup. And this starts at the line of scrimmage where both teams are really, really effective. Everson, Griffin, Linval, Joseph, Donnell Hunter, all good players. The Steelers O-line, a lot of talent, Pouncey, Castro, Foster, Villanueva. It's a lot of good players involved. It's obviously going to be a key factor in who can come away with the victory. Le'Veon Bell really struggled in Week 1, and the Vikings look very good against the three-headed monster attack of the Saints. So if Bell's struggles continue rushing the ball, it could be a bit of rust, of course, after the holdout. That's going to certainly make things a lot more difficult on Roethlisberger. This team can get after the passer. I feel like the real strength of the Steelers line, which is really good all round, it is the interior. And the Vikings edge rushers are pretty good. I like Villanueva, but I think Everson Griffin could be a bit too much for him. So they're going to need the threat of the run game, I think, to slow those rushers down. Otherwise, I think Roethlisberger could be under a fair bit of pressure all day. I don't expect to see too much blitzing from the Vikings. They're pretty happy just sitting back in zone coverage for large chunks of games, playing some tough man on the outside and zoning over the middle, mixing it up in that way. But they don't do anything too creative, but they're a fast, talented and smart unit. With Bell, if Bell has a performance like in Week 1, I think it's going to be tough for him. However, I do expect to see Bell heavily featured in the receiving game. Running game, not sure he's going to make too much ground. I think you could see a bit of that there, and I'm not sure his patient running style works against a defence as ferocious as this. I think they'll get after him early and often. When they see pass, they get to the ball quickly, and they sure did that on Monday night. So I expect to see Bell out of the backfield. I'm not sure if what the Vikings can do to try and cover that. Their backers are good. It might have to be Kendricks, but I don't like that matchup for them. So I think that's an area where the Steelers could really exploit them. As the other area is just in the receiver position. Xavier Rhodes is an exceptional corner. He's really developed well for this team. He's going to have to match up with Antonio Brown, and with Brown moving all over the place, I think that makes things far more difficult for them. Rhodes really uses the sideline well. If you take that away from him, I don't know how he'd handle slot duty against Antonio. You always got to favour Brown. I mean, he's just that kind of a weapon. I think you still need to get help over the top of him. So it may be a case of when he's outside, you'll see Rhodes on him. When he's inside, you might see Terrence Newman, because he's an intelligent player, with Harrison Smith shading. They're going to have to try and do something to take him away, because you can't just let him run wild. Really the only player that came away from that game last week against the Browns with a higher end of production. Of course, Martavis Bryant's back. He was very quiet, much like Bell, looked a little bit rusty, and I think he's the real X factor in this one. Not sure who the Vikings can cover him with. As I say, I expect Rhodes to be focused on Brown. So Terrence Newman, that's just a physical mismatch at Newman's age. Trey Waynes has been wildly inconsistent. He's not really come along yet for the Vikings. So I think that's going to be a big one. I expect to see him targeted quite heavily. I don't think Roethlisberger's going to force it to Brown in this one. I'm expecting a lot of the focus to be on him. The tight ends, they're not used too heavily in Pittsburgh these days. So expect to see them primarily as blockers. You'll see Jesse James, used in the red zone. I think Vance McDonald's still learning the offense at this point. And I just don't think we're going to see too many multi-receiver sets. So I'll be surprised if we see too much of an impact from those guys. I think it's going to be a fair bit of 2 tight end sets to try and slow down this rush. Make sure Roethlisberger's got time and to try and get this run game going. I think it's going to be run heavy early. And we'll see how that goes. And then if they can get the play action going off that, that would be great. But expect it to be very short early. I don't think they're going to take too many risks. Try and feel out this Vikings defense. Try and get some stuff going after a poor performance. I'm not sure they're going to be too aggressive against a very talented group. If you're the Vikings, as I suggested, you know how they're going to defend. They're just going to try and line up in their fairly base defense, play some basic coverages, and do it effectively and blitz sparingly. How well they can take the runaway will determine a lot of that success, I think. Especially with they've just got to focus on taking away Brown and having a plan for Le'Veon Bell. If he comes out of the backfield. If they can do both of those things, I think they've got a good chance of holding this Steelers offense to similar production as to what we saw last week. However, those guys are incredibly talented. It's easier said than done. If they can get the pass rush, though, I think Roethlisberger could be in for a tough day. On the other side of the ball, the Vikings very impressive in week 1. The offensive line about million times better than it was last year. They really performed. I mean, it was just the Saints. It's quite tough to judge. Their defense did look terrible. I mean, it was in mid-season form by Saints standards over the last couple of years. So I'm not going to look too much into it, but it certainly looks improved. Dalvin Cook looks like like most of us would have expected coming out of college. He was explosive, had a few drops, but was active in the pass game. Clearly going to be a heavy focal point for this team moving forward. Bradford played great. He looked sharp. And those 2 receivers played really, really well. And I think that's the X factor in this game. Those receivers up against these Steelers corners. I favour the Vikings receivers. I'm a bigger fan of Diggs and Thielen the most. And I think they'll give them some fits. I think they're going to make some big plays if this line can hold up. The Steelers' pass rush was very good against the Browns, particularly considering the reinforcements that they brought in. Steelers' defense did win them that game. TJ Watt looked good. The interior played really well. Javon Hargrave, the nose tackle, had a really solid performance. And they clamped down really well. So I would expect, based on that, Pittsburgh to dominate in the trenches against this very revamped, likely improved Vikings line. As a result, I think we'll see Cook struggle in the run game, but I do think he'll have an impact as a passer. I don't think there's... Shazier could do a job, but I don't think they'll necessarily want to use Shazier in coverage on him. But that's something we could see. If it's not, I think Cook will have a lot of success in that regard. But I'm expecting to see the Vikings looking to attack over the middle. Once again, we saw Stephon Diggs on a lot of those short routes trying to pick up yards after the catch. Thielen being used as the intermediate deep target. He was just getting wide open. So the safety play for the Steelers is going to be huge in this one because it was a real problem for the Saints and the Vikings managed to exploit it. So I think we'll see, you're very much your West Coast style of offense as we used to from the Vikings. A lot of slants, a lot of drags, but I think they'll give Adam Thielen his deep shots. How well the Steelers deal with those, as well as Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, I think are going to be the most important factors. If they can get the kind of pass rush they got last week, they'll get a couple of turnovers out of this game. Feel pretty confident on that one. And if that's the case, then I see the Steelers winning this game. However, I liked what I saw from the Vikings. I think they carry on with some momentum from last week. I think the Steelers offence still looks like it's trying to figure itself out a little. Roethlisberger was really slumping at the end of last season. I didn't see a huge amount from him last week to think that that's not the case. And if Le'Veon Bell can't get things figured out, and I'm not sure this is the week that he does, I just think this Vikings team is a little bit too complete for the Steelers to kind of just amble their way to victory like they did last week. I thought in a lot of ways they got pretty lucky, and I need to see them perform at a higher level than they did before I'm willing. It's going to be tough, on the road for the Vikings, but they really did impress me. I think their defence is going to come out, play fast, and cause some issues for this Steelers team. And I like the Vikings to win this one more comfortably than a lot of people would think. Pretty confident in them at this point, even if it is just 1 week in, as long as they can hold up. And I'm expecting to see the Steelers bringing a lot of pressure, especially based on what they saw last week. I don't think they'll be too confident covering these guys. And they'll be trying to get Cook in the backfield, force Bradford into some bad decisions, get some hits on him, because he was very comfortable last week and he looked great. So I think they'll try and rattle him. But I think he'll make them pay a couple of times. And Vikings come away with this one for me. So there you have it. There's maybe a bit of a bold prediction, but I'm sticking with it. What do you guys think? Are there any particular aspects of this matchup you're looking forward to? I expect Harrison Smith to just be such a big factor in this one. He's such a smart player. I think he could easily end up coming up with a takeaway. Roethlisberger doesn't mind forcing it. Should have mentioned that. I only just sort of popped into my head now. I do like talking about Harrison Smith. He's really good. If there's anything you want to mention, give us a shout. Comment section below. Cover Zero Facebook page. Find me on Twitter at Simon Conboy. Always happy to talk football. If you've enjoyed this, check out some of the other previews. Got 3 other games up at the moment, or at least there will be. At least I'm hoping to get some more done before the weekend. I'm going to have a review of the Thursday night stinker based on week 1 between the Texans and Bengals. I've got the weekly roundtable. They're always worth checking out. Brief reviews and previews of every game with me and a couple of friends. If you check them out, like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon, all that good stuff. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day and go Bucks.